Do you think the AI bubble is going to pop anytime this year? And what might that mean for Bitcoin? For Bitcoin, it would be terrible, right? If the AI bubble was to pop, Bitcoin would crash beyond any model that we have. Is the AI bubble going to pop though? I'm not so sure. So the main difference that we currently have with this AI bubble compared to prior bubbles, compared to say the .com bubble, was that .com was fueled by retail investors' money. And so once the retail investor made their gains, once there weren't enough additional retail investors to enter the space, the price appreciation stopped, and then there was the reversal, something that we have seen all the time in crypto. Now, this AI bubble is not fueled by retail investors' money. This AI bubble is fueled by the big tech companies, and the big tech companies, they will find creative ways to raise more money. They will find creative ways to value illiquid assets at inflated prices. And so it's unclear whether or not the AI bubble is going to pop at any time at all. Maybe we just see those elevated prices for a long time and we just go sideways for many, many years, and USM2, the monetary debasement, will make its job. Right, so that's maybe an even more realistic scenario. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, right? Valuations across the board are high. It's not just the AI bubble. When we look at the Shiller PE ratio across all of the stock market, it's very, very high. But I'm not so sure if we will see a real crash as we saw in 2000 and 2001. My expected scenario is rather that we're going to level out at a higher price level, at higher valuation levels, and then at some point after crypto has crashed, we can probably buy the bottom relatively aggressively again once we are below the realized prices, and then we just ride the cycles again as usual. So that's what I personally do, and that's how I personally approach this current market. But yes, if the AI bubble was to pop, that would be extremely dissatisfying. It would be very bad for Bitcoin and for crypto as a whole. Here's the number of Bitcoin that's held by the ETFs. Here's the number of Bitcoin that's held by the ETFs plus the treasury companies. It's one of the reasons why Bitcoin can outperform the rest of crypto. But yeah, the fundamentals of Bitcoin are of course great, right? We've only got 0.8% additional supply hitting the market year over year. While at the same time, the monetary base, it expands by 6.8% per year. So just based on that, we should have an expected return of Bitcoin of 6% per annum. But then on top of that, we've got the HODL waves, right? How more and more of the supply of Bitcoin gets stashed away or gets lost. So actually really, we've got a circulating supply contraction already. The 0.8% that gets mined is less BTC than what gets lost. And then we have to ride the waves, right? We have to try to sell into the rallies, as those kind of holders here do quite nicely, right? They sell into the waves, they tend to buy into the bottoms. So what are the potential turnaround points? We've got the realized price of Bitcoin, which is currently at 55K. I talk about that realized price all the time, right? I want to know at what point in time is the market depressed enough that we can potentially start with first purchases again. 55K is my very first mark. So I do think that at some point we will hit the 55K. I do not have a crystal ball, but that's personally how I set myself up. I do think that in case I want to make contrarian bets, right? I want to make bets to buy below the best moving averages. I want to see us at least below 55K. Potentially for the larger bets, I want to see us below 40K even. That's the long-term holder realized price, right? So that's the overall realized price. Here's the long-term holder realized price. The long-term holder realized price tends to adjust a bit later compared to the overall market realized price, but still, even for the long-term holder realized price, we tended to fall below that at the end of a bear market by roughly 25% even. So the very worst case, if the AI bubble was not to pop, is a 30K in BTC. But already at 40K, it makes sense to buy extremely aggressively, and it makes sense to start buying at 55K already. But I do think that the 55K is very likely to get hit. And of course, then we've got our medium-term trading according to the momentum, right? According to the moving averages. But if I wanted to buy Bitcoin against those moving averages, it would need to satisfy the requirement that we get at least below the realized price, better the long-term holder realized price. That's when it makes sense to buy into a crash against the trend, right? The market has to have sold off sufficiently.